Hello everyone and welcome to episode 53 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice. Listen in the description below. I'm back after having been usurped by the vile Dark Fortune duelist meta. And deposed of my GMing throne. I'm Obsidian.
My reign was short-lived, but they say that the candle that burns twice as bright burns twice as short.
Oh, that's very wise. Very wise saying.
Yes.
Yeah, like every once in a while, Meta he pokes out and takes my reins from me because life kicks me in the nuts.
You can never really trust me, Obs. One day I'm gonna usurp it for real season.
Well, I sat down to record last week, and we were talking about stuff I really would have loved to talk about. And then my now roommate, then friend's internet at his old house was not working. So, and the internet didn't get up at my new place until this past weekend. So there you go.
But now it's all good, right?
Yeah. Now we're copacetic for now. It's only a matter of time before something goes wrong.
We'll wait. I'll wait. I'll be patient.
All right. We've also got the wall that will not fall, Tetsuo. There you go. He's here, I swear.
He's here.
And the rest of the wall. Go on, Tets. I thought you were robot voicing or something again.
I said I'm here for now, at least until my computer decides to mess up. I guess it decided there was the great opportunity.
And the resident wildcard Mao.
Yo.
So what's been up with everybody? I didn't get to talk to you last week.
Games.
New
games.
Yeah, I've been playing old games because I haven't had internet and watching Kitchen Nightmares on my external hard drive. When a man doesn't have internet, he does what he must. And reading, lots of reading.
I should do that more, but
I have been just
the allure of video games is strong.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I'm just going through the week, surviving.
It's just another day for Meta. It's hard knock life for a crane, man.
Do you know how hard it is to find 3 servants who will do everything for you? I don't know if you all have this problem or not. Probably not. You're all
yes, I would love to have them help me move. Because I've been moving at work and moving in real life. As if work isn't real life, but
yeah, right.
Moving out of the previous house I rented into another house where I'm renting a room. So there you go. I'm saving money and I'm living with people I like now.
Hey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
No more motorcycles, hopefully.
Well, my roommate has a motorcycle, but I have a window that isn't busted out.
He's not going to just be sitting there revving it.
No, and I don't live by the interstate anymore. I live in a suburb. So
I think that was really the key point right there is that he's not going to sit there and rev it unless.
I mean, he might.
You know, I was gonna say, he might do it just to fuck with you.
He has a basement to do it in too, so it'll rumble the entire house if he does. So it has the potential to be even worse than last time.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we will. What about you, Ted? What's been going on? Gunpla.
Been doing a lot of modeling. Well, not entirely gunpla. I picked up a few tank kits and I've been doing dioramas and stuff for some of my models, but mostly modeling using my new airbrush I got and all that.
I hear that an airbrush makes your life so much easier.
It makes things a lot faster, at least. A lot of the fine details still gonna do a hand brush for, but at least for putting on primer and doing wide swaths of, especially on opposed to a miniature for a war game, it definitely is worth its weight.
Yeah, my buddy has one, and he uses it to basically put the base coat on all of his models for his War Machine army. So he's like, instead of it taking me hours, it took me 2 hours instead of 8 or 10 to paint a whole army.
So only thing that does take some time is depending on how much colors and what types of paints you're using, the cleaning cycle could possibly cause it to be longer than if you used a brush. But even then, it's still going to be a much more even coat than what you can accomplish with a brush.
Man,
If only we were a mini painting podcast, right?
I know, right? Actually, to be fair, I was poking Tuts' brain on that because I'm trying to. I gotta paint up some minis from friends for our tabletop game, and let me tell you,
it's fun. That's all the painting I do is D&D models and stuff. I don't do.
That's pretty much as far as. Well, the problem is like I'll end up splitting it though for like I'll go for like half a year without doing it, and then I'm like, shit, how do I do this again?
It is not like riding a bike.
It is not.
Hey, painting.
But it's not like riding a bike either.
That's true.
People like painting streams too. Actually, there's quite a few of them.
Oh yeah.
Main reason why I played Warhammer 40k was because I liked putting together the miniatures way more than I liked playing.
I still have a bunch of cow unpainted that I always keep meaning to, but
I'm the total opposite. Like, I hate mini games that require you to like paint the minis and crap. I'd rather just like have them come pre-painted, and I'd be like, "Yeah, here's my models, bam, lay them down," and then I get to play with them.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too.
I'd rather just get into it.
And then you could like paint over them if you want.
Yeah, I just like working with my hands. I think on stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
I also started doing like fine scale modeling when I was like 10 or so. So I also like so long. Like
go on, toot your horn, Tats. It's fine. We're not gonna stop you.
Oh, that wasn't what I meant. What I meant was if
I'm just
jumped
messing with
into
you.
it when I was older, I probably would be in the same boat. To be
Gotcha.
honest.
All right. Well, we got lots of video to talk about tonight.
What? We've got video to talk about?
Yeah, all kinds.
Videos.
Who would have guessed? So
I can't believe it.
So you're starting out meta. So go on. What's your topic?
Oh God, I don't know what to talk about except for maybe Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, which came out.
Who knew? Who knew?
So yeah, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition did drop, and man, playing that game is fun.
You're getting the feels, you're getting the memories, the sweet nostalgia.
That nostalgia is not misplaced. It is enjoyable as I remember
Nostalgia?
Yeah.
You can have nostalgia for things from like 4 or 5 years ago. It's totally fine.
It was actually a fair amount of time ago, like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was pretty close to the early in the Wii U, I thought.
Yeah, it was early on in the Wii U. Actually, I'll look it up. But
like a year after the Wii U came out.
Yeah. Just a little bit under 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to just cover everything again. I will state that the game, for those of you who don't know, it came out for the Wii U. Then a version came out for the 3DS, which had more stuff on it. The DLC that had come out for the Wii U version, plus extra. And now the Switch version, which I'm hoping is the Redemption Arc, and will sell wonderfully well, as it should have.
Because it was hindered by being on the Wii U.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Like every game on the Wii U.
On the Wii U. Yeah.
Except that Mario Kart 8.
Except that Mario Kart 8. Man, that game
had a high retention rate.
I mean, it's Mario Kart. You can't really get Mario Kart wrong.
Which was also a good game, but that's not what we're talking about today. So for the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, what it does bring to the table is everything that the other two editions brought, plus a little few extra things. It runs in a locked 60 frames per second, which is wonderfully sweet. And it also has it has more enemies on screen. They've actually upped the amount of enemies you can put on screen. They've kind of gone back and modified it a little bit to kind of help let it push itself for what the Switch is, but not without sacrificing the 60 frames, which is wonderful.
They make good use of the hardware, basically. Upgrade.
Yeah, they honestly, what they did with this game is there's really no graphics updates. I mean, it almost looks like the Wii U version. There's probably a little bit. They probably did some touch up that they just never bothered to mention.
I assume it's at higher definition.
It is at higher definition. It is at 1080p, 60 frames, the whole shebang. They make wonderful use of the hardware, as you put it. That was probably the best way to say it. Is they just make wonderful use of that hardware. I am honestly and legitimately impressed by the game, and I'm very glad for it. However, like the only real downside is if you get this game, there's really never a reason to pick up Fire Emblem Warriors because going to this game, I like originally when I was thinking about this topic, I was like, well, I got to think some pros and cons, like because I do want to compare it to like Fire Emblem Warriors, like some goods and bads, but that was immediately shot down because you can control your units now. You can bring multiple units in that you can switch and play through on a single map. You can send them off to do things, either to defend an area, to deal with a creature, or to fight certain enemies, or to protect or escort another ally. So the only thing it really misses is like the weapon triangle, which technically wasn't even done first in Fire Emblem Warriors. If you've played Dynasty Warriors 8, you'll remember that you had man, earth, and heaven, which was quite literally a weapon triangle. Heaven beat man, man beat earth, and earth beat heaven, or something like that. So
Yield and rock, paper, scissors.
it's pretty much. So that is the only. But wait, what?
I was just gonna say the way that you said like the other things that you can do with the in Hyrule Warriors, it's almost played that or Fire Emblem Warriors, but it's played most of the other Warriors games. It's more akin to like the Empires series in that regard, sort of.
Yeah, like you actually have control of your units, like which is again, it was a thing that's happened in the Empire series as well, where they first started to deal with like controlling units that are under your command and sending them off to point A, B, or C and doing whatever you want them to do. I mean that's in it though. Like I said, the only downside to having your group is that unless you're playing as the character, they won't gain any XP, which is the only downside. Fire Emblems, unfortunately, Warriors made that nice because whoever you have as your on your like your party or with you, they will all gain EXP. So that was a benefit, but it's not a big loss. It's not like leveling up is very difficult in this game. So beyond that, it is essentially the same thing as other games. There was a nice surprise is that for me, myself, because I never played the 3DS, so I didn't know what really came with that. You got a My Fairy system, which essentially allows you to raise a fairy, given an elemental type, a type of personality, and certain gear, and that will affect substats that can affect your character when you equip with them, as well as changing how their special ability might work.
Oh, that's neat.
So it's actually really nice to have kind of like this little companion thing. And you actually have a model for the fairy. And when you summon it out, unlike the 3DS version where it kind of just showed a picture and that was it, when you summon out your fairy, it will retain all the gear and how you designed and made it look like. So when you summon the fairy out, it will have all that stuff for it, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, but that fee, though, what you know about that fee?
God.
Everyone's supposed to say the character.
I know, right? It also has all the DLC from the original, both Wii U, I'm assuming, in the 3DS, if there was any. I didn't really follow the 3DS version. But it has all the DLC. It has the expanded storylines. It goes from what was generally, I think, about like 14 or 16 storyline stages to now about 20 to, I think, probably 28, 26 now. So it's gotten a fair chunk, nearly doubled in size for the story mode. So it's actually wonderful because of that. And again, most of it's just from actual DLC and stuff. But it's a wonderful game. I mean, it's really hard else to sing the praises on it. I haven't gone through a lot of it, unfortunately. But I have been playing through it again. I already know characters I want to play that I didn't really play in the first game. I want to play now. I originally mained Impa, because obviously I got to have my giant katana and samurai. But this game, I actually want to. Yeah, I know, right? But this game, I'm not playing the predictable route. I actually want to play Kid Link, or Young Link.
Is it Toon Link or Young Link?
It's like Young Link.
Waker.
Young Link is
Wind Waker
Majora
Link?
Max.
Okay,
No,
okay,
not
gotcha.
the Majora
Gotcha.
Mask one. Majora Mask. And specifically because he has actually a really cool gimmick, and I see this a lot more in the newer Dynasty Warriors games, is that they tend to like come out with gimmicks for certain characters, like some sort of passive or interesting mechanic that they do with him. And Young Link, again, is one of those few characters that has a very interesting gimmick to him. The real major gimmick to him is that young Link in and of himself is not a bad character, but he's generally subpar. He's got kind of short range because he's a tiny kid, and they compensate for that by just giving him a giant like sword as opposed to like the young kid, the young Link sword and shield. He's kind of got like Bigoron's, giant sword or whatever. But his major gimmick is that when you're raising up your special meter, your muso gauge, so to speak, if you don't utilize it and instead use the first charge move, he'll play the ocarina and it'll transform it into magic for the magic meter. Because when you fill that up and you activate it, like normally everybody, anytime you go into that, it's called like spirit focus or something like that. I can't remember the actual term of the game, but it's magic mode essentially. When you go into that mode,
the rage mode in
games, you attack faster. You have moves will tend to break through guards. It'll do a little bit more damage. And generally, the original gimmick was that if you had both a passive finisher, which means that once the meter ran out, it would just do a finisher move for you, or you could use a spirit focus finisher, which is if you ended it before the meter ran out, you would perform a powerful move that would immediately put your opponent into a weakness state, where you could then follow it up by attacking their gauge. And if you reduce it down to 0, you perform another powerful move on them. So it really benefited you to kind of pay attention to that bar and play it. But young Link does something a little bit different. He actually puts on the Fierce Deity mask, and his whole moveset becomes very overpowered. Every single attack he performs is now much faster. Every single attack he performs now shoots out beams of energy. You can quite literally cleave through armies, and even more so than normal in a Dynasty Warriors game. And your real gimmick is that as you're generating this meter, you can even use the ocarina as you're playing as Fierce Deity Link, which means that you can continue to retain the gauge, which means that you stay in that mode longer. So it becomes a game of trying to kill creatures, gaining the link, finding the next group, killing them off, and keeping this pace up until eventually, which will happen, you wear out the meter and you go back to being Link. But I like that. I like that gimmick. So I'm going to be playing him. He's going to be he's going to be effectively my main now, because I want to play a mode where I can just stay as Fierce Deity Link for as long as possible and blow the crap.
That was added to this version, or that was in the
original
as well?
That was in the original as well. It's just that this is who I want to main now, because originally in the original version I made Impa. I enjoyed the crap out of her, but now I want to play young Link because I really like his gimmick.
But Meta, what about the waifus?
What about the waifu?
What about
Why wouldn't you play Marin though? She's the waifu.
Why would you not play as a chicken?
The chicken.
Look at these characters.
This is a legit character you can play as
Kuko.
And unfortunately, from what I understand, the Kuko gets unlocked because I read up on somebody's guide. They've been playing the Japanese version because it came out before. And they said the only downside is that unlocking the Kuko, you've kind of had to unlock a bit of everything else before getting to the Kuko. So he said it's kind of a disappointment because you get to really play this interesting and fun, hilarious character, but you kind of done everything before it, so now that's really kind of like an end goal thing. I could be wrong. This is just from what I'm understanding of what I was watching. It's been a while, but yeah. I mean, they have all the challenge modes like Ganon's Fury, where you can play as Ganon as he's in giant pig mode, and you get to go around and just quite literally blow up battlefields by smashing everything beneath your giant feet and hands. It is kind of fun because it almost has a kaiju feel to it. You'll end up fighting like the sub boss creatures, like the king. Can't wait to bomb some Dodongos. There we go. King the Dongos and whatnot and stuff like that.
King Goron.
Yep. Those kind of guys. All of them you get to kind of like face. And they're smaller than you, which always kind of feels very fun. And you get to crush the crap out of them. So it's a good romp. If you're looking for something new though, unfortunately, if you've played the 3DS, you're really not going to get that. It's probably a far better jump over if you've played the Wii U, because there's a lot more to do. But if you've played the 3DS, you're really just playing the same game again. Just this time, it's been spruced up, put on the Switch. The hardware's been wonderfully utilized to make the most out of what the game is.
And it still has more variants than Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, it's got... I mean, you have... What is it? I think there's 30-something characters, and almost... majority of characters at least have 2 weapons, and Link has 7. Yeah. So you have about 60 I want to say 60-50 move sets in the game. 40 to 60, I should say.
Fire Emblem
movesets
can make everyone's unique.
Yeah. And this game has every move, every weapon type, every move set is unique depending on what weapon you use for the character. But Fire Emblem couldn't even do that. I would honestly just recommend that if you're looking to get a Warriors game, you're looking to get one that's good and fun, just get Hyrule Warriors. It's this definitive edition. Yeah, it's just legitimately better now. There's not even a reason to get the Fire Emblems unless you're just a really big Fire Emblems diehard fan and you want to play the Fire Emblems game.
You know what I really wish they'd port to the Switch?
What?
The Yakuza games.
Ooh.
Well, they're remaking 2, 3, and 4
Yes,
for
they are.
PlayStation 4.
Yep.
I know that was like a weird tangent, but
Just it
needed to be said.
Obs is like, you know what Link makes me think of? Yakuza.
Yakuza, yeah.
You're telling me that Link doesn't scream Japanese mafia?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, I really want to play the new one.
Totally different Hyrule games then.
God.
I like the concept of the new one, but I'm not going to go off on that tangent.
The adventure maps have been redesigned a little bit because in the Wii U version, like everything was shoved into the first original adventure map. But now with the game being kind of its own thing and been spread across tons of different adventure maps, they have spread across like all the unlocks and content across them. The other plus is that they actually tell you how difficult they are, not each tile on the map and how difficult they are, just like how difficult in general the map is. So take that for what it is, I guess.
Here's a question. You said how it compares to Fire Emblem Warriors, but the Warriors games in general, like some of the recent servings.
Okay, I actually will get into this because I think this is something that's discussed, but we're gonna get technical on like what Dynasty Warriors games are. So
yeah, that's fair.
If you don't want to hear it, I would advise skipping forward. But if you're interested in understanding the differences of why these games can be so fun, please listen in. So honestly, personally to me, because I actually started recently playing Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires again because I got the feeling inside of me. I was like, I really want to kill a lot of people in some sort of genocide simulator. So I decided to pick up Dynasty Warriors. So I picked up Dynasty Warriors. I was playing the game, and it kind of did make me like look at the game and go like, wow, there's a lot of flaws in this compared to kind of the newer games that they've done since then. One of the big things I've found is that in Hyrule Warriors, like your special attack is generally very useful, both against multiple enemies as well as like a single boss. They just there is no difference because like in some of the newer Dynasty Warriors games, like Dynasty Warriors 8 specifically, I'm not going to talk 9 because I haven't played 9 and it's very different.
So,
yeah.
So I did talk on it one week, but
yes.
I haven't been able to finish it because it is the definition of a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
Even for a Warriors game.
9 has a 2 on Steam.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Holy moly.
Yeah, that is rough. I've not heard.
Apparently, they were doing some things like taking weapons out before realism and then selling them as DLC.
Oh my god.
So yeah, like the guy that does the sickle and chain, he wields a normal sword, and I don't think the sickle and chain have made their way back into the game yet.
See, that's not really the point of Dynasty Warriors. You shouldn't be really focused on realism.
Is definitely not the point.
That is definitely not the point of those games. I don't know who decided that, but it was dumb. But like, in those games, like they eventually kind of unlocked like aerial musos, a second muso, and generally they tried to cover bases. So you had one muso that affected by hitting a lot of enemies, but it wasn't really like a high damage move. It was meant to clear the area. You had the second muso, which generally acted as like an officer killer. Its job was to murder like the 2 or 3 dudes in front of you and murder them good. And then you had the aerial one, which is just generally as a aerial counter. If you did like a flip in the air, you didn't want to get hit again, you could use the aerial muso and it would give you like a safe space, and it would also generally hit the enemies around you and kind of clear them up. Hyrule Warriors kind of like decided to say is like, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get rid of that idea, and we're just going to do one muso that's really good against both officers and not officers, and it's going to be useful and very nice.
I like that. because I found that with some officers, even their crowd clearing musos were still geared towards officers, or your officer one really was better for makes me happy.
I get what you're saying, because like some officer killers were just really bad at being officer killers, and some like aerial clearers didn't really feel like they cleared anything whatsoever. You could be surrounded by like 100 dudes on screen and be like, oh, you killed 20 of them, good job. I'm like, my combo kills 50 of them, why would I bother with this? So they kind of like drop that down. Jumping in general is gone. Like there is no jumping in the game, which partly, like, it has ups and downs, but it works well enough. And I can't really say it's like better or worse in a Dynasty Warriors game if you can jump, so to speak. But in the place of it, you get a dodge roll, which feels really nice. You can, because there is kind of some advanced gameplay, or at least intermediate gameplay associated with being able to dodge roll. You can dodge out of the ending frames of a move so that you're not stuck with delay
Dodge
animation.
canceling.
Yeah, dodge canceling at its finest. You have that
dodge.
You have that, which is very nice. I mean, you've got the special mode, which is like your rage mode and whatnot, which is very cool. The fact that you can end that early by pressing your muso button to create, it's essentially forcing you to kind of keep an eye on that gauge and learning to min-max that gauge is very nice, because it rewards you. You get the most out of your special gauge or your rage mode, and then you get to also put the enemy in a weakened state, which allows you to potentially perform a special weakened state attack on them if you can reduce the bar low enough. It's very satisfying in that regards, which honestly, playing like the Dynasty Warriors 8 again and going through like that, they have the whole man, heaven, earth. That was not really refined during that game. If you have the beneficial weapon against them, for the most part, you were going to kill them before you use the special combo on them, especially when you got into harder difficulties and you got the higher attack. I think it worked better in 8 as opposed to Empires in and of itself, but I mean,
I would agree with that.
But 8 was generally a little bit more refined, I think, than Empires was. Empires, I don't know why they made some of the changes that they did, but they did. But 8 generally did a better job of it. But even then, once you started to get like the higher end weapons and you were playing on the higher difficulties, it really became a rush to just murder the dude as fast as you can, which is really what was going to happen anyway. Empires is just, I guess, an unfortunate side effect of showing you what happens when you decide to take that to extremes.
I think Empires tried to force you into doing the title hunting, and therefore they took away gameplay to encourage you to do other things, which
really makes no sense. And again, it coming back to is that like Dynasty Warriors 8 did things wonderfully, but if you play Hyrule Warriors, it honestly just took what was kind of bad about them and made it better. On the Switch version of the game, I mean, running at 60 frames is just wonderful, regardless of the game you're playing. I'll play Elmo's like Count Me Street or something for like in 60 frames, as long as it's in 60 frames. And the game plays wonderfully for it, which unfortunately is not something I think 8 or Empires was able to get a hold of, is that they are not locked into 60. So you do sometimes feel that slowdown, nastily so, when you're attacking certain things in the game. The removal, the certain combos and whatnot just tend to flow better. Like every combo feels like it has a purpose there. Link, for instance, is wonderful. You can follow up his knock up into a move that will push them more back, which can then follow up into an aerial combo, because certain characters get aerial moves if you do a move that puts them up in the air. He has a lot of ways to link new moves into, ironically enough for his name, link other moves into certain moves from them, and it always flows very nicely. It feels very natural. A lot of the times when you're playing Dynasty Warriors 8, that's not the case. You kind of just feel like you've gone to a reset. Now let me start my next combo. So a lot of things play more smoothly as well in Hyrule Warriors. Everything kind of just feels like it has a reason to why it's designed that way. More importantly, and you'll see this like specifically in some of the moves of Dynasty Warriors 8. You might remember like the Fire Blade, which charges up as you run along the map. It'll charge up a flame on the weapon, which will cause it to it caused you to expand certain moves. You had some gimmicks, a few of them on different characters. Generally, every character has, at least from the core characters, some of the characters, a lot more characters have gimmicks to them, or certain weapons have gimmicks to them. Linkle is a fine example where if you play as her, you will end up doing your combos and moves, and there's a meter that charges up as you do it. once you do your first charge move, she will literally just pull out both crossbows and just start firing the machine guns, and you kind of go into over the shoulder perspective. Pretty much. It's awesome. You just press the button and you walk forward and you just like mow down everything in front of you, and there's no way from the guard out of it, and the meter just slowly depletes as you do that. That kind of stuff is a lot more apparent in Hyrule Warriors. So there's a lot more stuff on that. I would honestly just state, like, in short, which I probably should have started with, or here's the TLDR. It's a lot more refined. They took a lot of the stuff that didn't really need to be there and focused on the things that made the game feel fun. The effects are nice. The attacks feel good. I
just want the characters to feel different.
They are. All the characters are very different. You don't feel like you're kind of playing like a variation of another character.
The reskin.
Yeah, there's no copies, which is a blessing and a half. There's not even shared weapons, which is even something Dynasty Warriors 8 I have to accuse of. Certain weapons did get shared between characters, and they just gave them like maybe a different EX like combo move, or they gave them like a different muso. But some did share weapons, which was unfortunate.
Some of the ones that you would expect to didn't, though, which was interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, take that for what it is, but, I mean, that kind of really delves into it. The enemy AI is not really changed from them. I mean, they're all kind of idiots. The officers generally attack more. The enemy officers attack, pretty heavily. The mooks are mooks. They're going to do their thing. The mini-bosses are fun. They do, again, break levity, which has been, by the way, something else that's just very fun in the game is that the mini-bosses do kind of break up the monotony of murdering things and kind of add in a little bit more of like, okay, this is important. I have to beat it a certain way. Not that you can't beat them easily once you know how, but they still pose a different challenge to play and make use of the items that are in the game. Overall, I would honestly just state that Hyrule Warriors is probably one of the best versions of the game to pick up. It just does everything well. Every time you get a new character, they're going to play differently so that you know that when you unlock a new character, this is a new play style. They're going to have some different combos. It's going to be very interesting to try them. So yeah, Hyrule Warriors is pretty much everything I remember it to be, and then some. I would recommend getting it if you have a Switch and you ever decide you want to play a Warriors game or getting the itch to play another Warriors game. Get it. Good game.
Meta gives it 5.5 rupees out of 6.
That's 5 rupees out of
his expert rating.
My expert rating. I give it 5 out of 7 rupees.
Yeah. For 5. Hey, listens out of 6.
Hey. It's 2 more listens than I needed.
Yep.